Okay, so he's already established what the subject of the Emperor card is for this spiritual exercise, this meditation. The subject is authority. One can also say that a person has authority in proportion to what he unites within himself of the profundity of mysticism, the direct wisdom of gnosis, and the productive power of magic. Okay. Now, before you freak out here, I think it is worth noting what Tomberg is talking about when he uses those words. So, this is like the shortest way, this is the shortest, most succinct way I can put it. When Tomberg says mysticism, he means the experience of God. When he says Gnostic, contrary to the Gnostic notion of secret doctrine, what he means is the understanding of spiritual realities and the process by which we come into the understanding of spiritual realities. And by magic, he means participation in divine action, which puts it in counter-distinction from sorcery, which is simply the delusion or desire to impose one's will on reality. So magic here, in the sense of divine magic that he's speaking about here, operates in precisely the opposite direction, because it is accomplished through the uniting of the human will with the divine will. Okay, whoever has this, that is this authority, to a certain degree, can found a school. Whosoever has it to a still higher degree can, and he puts this in quotation marks, can lay down the law. It is authority alone which is the true and unique power of law. This is very important here in the next sentence. He says, compulsion is only an expedient to which one takes recourse in order to remedy the lack of authority. Tomberg will be very clear elsewhere in the text, not necessarily in this letter, but elsewhere in the text, will be very clear that this authority is the way in which God operates. God does not act with compulsion upon his creation, which he allows its freedom. Where there is authority, i.e., where there is present the breath of sacred magic, filled by the rays of light of gnosis emanated from the profound fire of mysticism, their compulsion is superfluous. The implication here is that the human bearer of true authority does not replace divine authority, but on the contrary, cedes his place to it. He has to renounce something to this end. The context of the card expresses active renunciation rather than the renunciation of constraint alone. The emperor has renounced ease, not being seated. He has renounced walking, being in a leaning position, having his legs crossed. He may neither advance in order to take the offensive, nor move back in order to retreat. His station is by his seat at his coat of arms. He is on sentry duty, and as such, he does not have freedom of movement. He is a guardian bound to his post. What he guards is fundamentally the scepter. Now, the scepter is not an implement with which one is empowered to do something or other. It is, from a practical point of view, a symbol serving nothing. The emperor has therefore renounced all action, having pledged his right hand to the scepter that he holds before him, whereas his left hand holds his fastened belt. It is no longer free because the emperor restrains himself with it. It serves the function of holding the impulsive and instinctive nature of the emperor in check, so that it does not intervene and divert him from his post as guardian. The emperor has therefore renounced movement by means of his legs and action by means of his arms. At the same time, he wears a large and heavy crown, and we have already meditated upon the meaning of the crown with regard to that of the empress, which is letter 2, which has a double meaning. It is a sign of legitimacy on the one hand, but it is also a sign of a task or mission by which the crown is charged from above. Thus, every crown is essentially a crown of thorns. Not only is it heavy, but it also calls for painful restraint with regard to the thought and free or arbitrary imagination of the personality. It certainly emits rays outward, but these same rays become thorns for the personality within. They play the role of nails piercing and crucifying each thought or image of the personal imagination. Here, true thought receives confirmation and subsequent illumination. False or irrelevant thought is riveted and reduced to impotence. The crown of the emperor signifies the renunciation of freedom of intellectual movement, just as his arms and legs signify the renunciation of freedom of action and movement. He is deprived of the three so-called natural, and he has this in quotation marks, liberties of the human being, those of opinion, word, and movement. Authority demands this. But this is not all. The shield bearing an eagle rests on the ground at his side. The emperor does not hold it with his hand as the empress does. The shield is certainly there, but it belongs rather to the throne than to the person of the emperor. This means to say that the purpose for which the emperor is on sentry duty is not his, but that of the throne. The emperor does not have a personal mission. He has renounced this in favor of the throne. Or in esoteric terms, he has no name. He is anonymous because the name, the mission, belongs to the throne. He is not there in his own name, but rather in the name of the throne. This is the fourth renunciation of the emperor, the renunciation of a personal mission or a name and the esoteric meaning of the word. It is said that nature has a horror of emptiness, horror vacui. The spiritual counter-truth here is that spirit has a horror of fullness. It is necessary to create a natural emptiness, and this is what renunciation achieves, in order for the spiritual to manifest itself. The Beatitudes of the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 5, verses 3 through 12, state this fundamental truth. The first Beatitude, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven, means to say that those who are rich in spirit, who are filled with the spiritual kingdom of man, have no room for the kingdom of heaven. Revelation presupposes emptiness, space put at its disposal in order to manifest itself. This is why it is necessary to renounce personal opinion in order to receive the revelation of the truth. Personal action in order to become an agent for sacred magic. The way or method of personal development in order to be guided by the master of ways. And one's personally chosen mission in order to be charged with a mission from above. The emperor has established in himself this fourfold emptiness. This is why he is emperor. This is why he is authority. He has made a place in himself for the divine name, which is the source of authority. He has renounced personal intellectual initiative, and the emptiness which results is filled by divine initiative of the sacred name. He has renounced action and movement, and the void which results is filled by the revelationary action and magical movement from above. Here he has renounced his personal mission. He has become anonymous, and the emptiness which results is filled with the authority, i.e., he becomes the source of law and order. Lao Tzu reveals the Arcanum of authority in his Tao Te Ching. He says, 30 spokes unite in one nave, and because of the part where nothing exists, we have the use of a carriage wheel. Clay is molded into vessels, and because of the space where nothing exists, we are able to use them as vessels. Doors and windows are cut out in the walls of a house, and because they are empty spaces, we are able to use them. Therefore, on the one hand, we have the benefit of existence, and on the other, we make use of non-existence. And again, be humble, and you will remain entire. Be bent, and you will remain straight. Be vacant, and you will remain full. Be worn, and you will remain new. He who has little will receive. He who has much will be embarrassed. Therefore, the sage keeps to one and becomes the standard for the world. He does not display himself, therefore he shines. He does not approve himself, therefore he is noted. He does not praise himself, therefore he has merit. He does not glory in himself, therefore he excels. And because he does not compete, therefore no one in the world can compete with him. This is from the Tao Te Ching. And then Tomber goes on. Because he has authority. God governs the world by authority and not by force. Europe is haunted by the shadow of the emperor. One senses his absence just as vividly in former times one senses his presence. It was the principle itself of authority from which all lesser authorities derive not only their legitimacy, but also their hold over the consciousness of the people. This is why royal crowns, one after another, lost their luster and were eclipsed after the imperial crown was eclipsed. Monarchies are unable to exist for long without the monarchy. Kings cannot apportion the crown and scepter of the emperor among themselves and pose as emperors in their particular countries, because the shadow of the emperor is always present. And if, in the past, it was the emperor who gave luster to the royal crowns, it was later the shadow of the absent emperor which obscured the royal crowns and consequently all other crowns, those of dukes, princes, counts, etc. A pyramid is not complete without its summit. Hierarchy does not exist when it is incomplete. Without an emperor, there will be sooner or later no more kings. When there are no kings, there will be sooner or later no more nobility. When there is no more nobility, there will be sooner or later no more bourgeoisie or peasants. This is how one arrives at the dictatorship of the proletariat, the class hostile to the hierarchical principle, which latter, however, is a reflection of the divine order. This is why the proletariat professes atheism. The post of the emperor does not belong any longer either to those who desire it or to the choice of the people. It is reserved to the choice of heaven alone. It has become a cult. It should be evident from what he says here about the choice of heaven. The post of the emperor is reserved for Christ. The emperor owes his authority not to his power, visible or invisible, over human beings, but rather because he represents them before God. He has authority not because he is superhuman, but rather because he is very human, because he represents all that which is human. King David was more human than all men of his time. This is why he was anointed by divine order by the prophet Samuel. This is the reason the Eternal gave him the solemn promise that his throne will be established forever. The throne, the post of the representative of humanity, will therefore never perish. And it is this which is the post of the emperor. It is this which is true authority.